Dude, what an incredible start to the IEM Cologne playoffs. The quarterfinals played out over the course of today. We had NAVI taking out Mongolz in a surprise 2-0 sweep, and then MOUZ and Furia battling to the very, very limit on every single map, with MOUZ rising victorious despite utter heroics from Mongolz throughout the entire set. It may just be 2 games, yet we still have a ton to go through. So let's not waste any more time. If you guys enjoy this kind of content, you can show me by leaving a like, leaving a comment down below, and subscribing to the channel already. Help me hit 10k subs by the end of the year. Also, please take a second and follow me on twitch.tv/LionHeartZ. I want to make a push. By the time Blast Bounty ends in 2 weeks, I want to be over 1,000 followers on my Twitch channel. We are currently sitting at 747, so if you guys could go over and drop me a follow there and show up to a stream sometime, I would really appreciate it, as I want to try and co-stream more events this year. Lastly, I would like to thank today's sponsor. This video is sponsored by SkinsMonkey, a CS2 trading website. You put in the skins that you want to trade, you select what you want, you use my code LionHeartZ for up to $5 off, or click the top link in the description, and boom, new drip.
Nice.
You can also use my code for a 35% deposit bonus if you want to buy with real money. And they have a free section with cool giveaways. So check the top link in the description, use my code to buy 15 Dragon Lores to let them know I sent you their way, and thank you to SkinsMonkey for sponsoring this video. Hey, so I forgot to record this at the beginning, so I'm just going to cut it in here. There was definitely some instances we have to talk about as the first day of the Cologne playoffs started. There were 2 separate instances where people in the crowd shouted either racial epithets or literally Hail Hitler. And hey guys, this may be a hot take, but shouting the N-word and the support for the Nazis is not exactly a good look. Not to take an overtly political stance on this channel, not like I've never done that before, guys, but racism is bad. It's not good. And honestly, there is a cesspool in the CS community that a lot of people seem to just conveniently ignore or refuse to address. Yes, there are racist idiots in every online video game ever since the dawn of time. However, CS has a high density of such individuals compared to the average game. And I don't know, man, it's 2025. I hate to be like this, but we kind of have to stop being edgy teenagers at a certain point and address the fact that there is so much of this within our scene. We should be actively doing better. And these people who did this as a dumb stunt, one, you've just made it so it's so much harder for TOs to justify having crowd noise as part of the broadcast experience. Which really sucks because it's an integral part of the viewing experience and leads to so many amazing moments. But if dickheads are going to take advantage of open mics to be dickheads, then we don't get to have a nice thing. I hope these people are found. I hope they are permanently banned from Cologne and all future ESL events, and every TO takes notice and bans them just the same. No one is saying you can't make edgy jokes. No one's saying you can't have comedy. But I think we draw the line at outright bigotry, and we should be trying to be better as a community so we support the space for the most amount of people to come in and enjoy. I'm sorry, diversity is good actually, and we want people who don't play Counter-Strike to want to play Counter-Strike. But with their first exposure to Counter-Strike as racist dickheads, they're not gonna stay. Anyways, to the 3 dudes who did that, get fucked. To the guy who shouted at Machine that he should be picking cotton, I hope you get double fucked. And with that, let's go ahead and start the video. So right at the top, I decided to bring back something we started doing during the Austin Major, and I tweet out my predictions ahead of the game starting today. Going into this, I had the Mongolz beating NAVI 2-1, and Furia upsetting MOUZ 2-1. And yeah, so I was wrong on both of those, but I would like to explain my rationale. Well, the Mongolz were the runner-up at the latest major. They looked insane through the group stage, and NAVI are a team that's been backsliding and is trying to bed in a new rookie. So I felt pretty confident that while NAVI could certainly get a map, that the Mongolz would walk away with the victory. However, that did not work out. What came to Furia versus MOUZ, this came down to, listen, I like to play into Twitter narratives, alright? I was going for the aura play. I don't really like watching MOUZ. They're not that much of an entertaining team to me. And Furia are a team that's hot on the streets right now. And I thought they'd be able to do it. And they basically did until they shit themselves in the last half of Inferno. We'll get there when we get there. Basically, predictions are hard. I may have been wrong, but I don't know. Fuck you, I guess. Anyways, getting right into it, first game of the day was the Mongolz taking on NAVI. And honestly, I think most people were fully expected the Mongolz to be the dominant team in this picture. When we get onto Inferno, things started out exactly like that. The NAVI T-side on Inferno has pretty much never been strong in any iteration of this Alexi B style of lineup, They've always been very dependent on Bit dominating the CT side, and without JL to be this explosive entry piece, I was really curious to see how they would fare. And outside of winning the early game in the pistol conversions, they only won one gun round on this opening T-half. And right away, a massive concern was Makazze having a terrible go of things, getting very little kills, getting just mutilated on entries on both sides of the map. He was really struggling in this, his Tier 1 playoff debut. And keep in mind that while Makazze would go on to have a miracle performance throughout the rest of this game after this first half, when it came down to the T sides, even through all the overtimes, he still finishes going 9-13 and 1-8 on opening attempts throughout this game. The bulk of the work for both these teams was done on the CT side and came at the hands of just some miracle work in late side holds and especially late round clutches, which both teams had in spades in the retakes. Now, of course, NAVI was really only able to pull off this miracle comeback after falling down 10-4 because the Mongols really struggled on the T side as well, and we have to look no further than some old playoff demons, as both Senzu and Mizzino would have terrible games, and for Mizzino especially, a terrible series, which really sucks because I felt like narratively we were starting to move past the Mongols being group stage merchants, but honestly, you look at the numbers and it's still pretty damning. The Mongols are 3-15 versus top 5 competition this year, so they're great gatekeepers at preventing teams from getting into playoff runs, but they struggle against the few teams that are above them. And NAVI, for context, are ranked 6th currently, and while I certainly think NAVI are weaker, they're still within the ballpark, and with Makazze playing as good as he did for the rest of the game, and with Senzu and Mizzino not meeting the standards, yeah, I think it makes sense why the Mongols struggled so hard just to get a handful of rounds over the line. And I really can't stress enough how much of a hero Makazze was on the CT side holding the B site, which is once again the spot that JL would have played when he was still on the roster. There were multiple times throughout both regulation and overtime where it was just down to him having to get 1, 2, or sometimes 3 kills against the Mongols coming in as hard as they possibly could. Pause. And it really felt like a showcase for just how good of a prospect Makazze could be, because we've all seen the stats, we've all seen the hype from NAVI Jr. He should be a player that's competing with Kiosuke to be Rookie of the Year. But throughout the group stage of Cologne, he really struggled to show anything close to that form. And here, again, against a very, very good team in the Mongols, he showed out when NAVI absolutely needed it. And with timely good plays from Wonderful Bit and Emma, sharp calling from Alexi B, this looked like shades of the NAVI of old. This team that could just run you to the very end of the game and just be so hard to kill. And Mongols could not find a kill shot at any point to save their lives. Here's a great showcase of how well Makazze was doing on the CT sides. It's 10-12, NAVI are trying like hell just to get this game into overtime, and they've bought up everything they can. They don't really have ideal weapons, Makazze's stuck on an MP9, but they just have to make it work. It's going to come down into a very late B execution from the side of the Mongols. I think Makazze does damn near everything correct you can do as the Coffin player. One, he gets a ridiculous double with the MP9 fading away, but most importantly, he stays alive. The best thing you can do on Inferno with holding the bomb sites is stay alive as much as possible, give your team as many possible bodies for the retake that you possibly can. If you just get 1 kill and die, that's next to useless considering how hard it can be to get back into these bomb sites after the bomb goes down. So Makazze getting 2 and falling back to reinforce with his teammates is perfect play, leaving the Mongols in a 4v2 situation before the bomb is even able to go down. Makazze gets a 3rd from Church with the MP9, really sealing the deal and allowing his team to retake in force and keep the game alive. And then we're going to try something a little bit different. I really want to talk about this last round of regulation because I think this is peak perfect CT defense on Inferno, and the best way to illustrate that is to actually go over to Skybox Edge so you can see a live 2D overlay of where the utility is going. So follow me for a second. Here's what we're going to do. We pull up the 2D map. Let's take a look at how this round progresses. In 1.5 times speed, the first thing the NAVI are going to do right out the gate is they're going to start the round off by smoking bottom of banana from spawn. What's going to do instantly is deny the ability for the T's to take the immediate control into banana. What else they're going to do? Wonderful is going to rotate over here to mid after throwing that smoke. He's going to walk out to mid. He's going to molly so that they can cover the fast boost into apartments. Again, another layer of initial information control, preventing the Mongols from getting any forward presence going. And then they're just going to continue to layer and prevent the Mongols from being able to see what's going on anywhere on the map for pretty much the entirety of the round. Makazze and Alexi B layering in utility. I love this here. Alexi B and Wonderful are going to swap spots. Wonderful bringing the rest of his utility and the opposite support Makazze. while Bit and Lexi B go reinforced down onto the A side with Emma. Once again, wonderful protocols here. Knows the mid smoke, the banana smoke has already been refreshed. We are almost a minute into the round and the Mongols haven't gotten anything. They're barely getting to apps just now. And they're trying to take the space back into banana finally off the back of some nades to push wonderful off. But again, they're not going to get anything. They're not going to get any engagements from NAVI. They're just comfortable falling back and continuing to hold. At this point, we're 50 seconds in and Mongols have accomplished next to nothing. They are no closer to setting up a site take than they were at the beginning of the round. And NAVI have held on to late smokes, late Molotovs, late flashes as long as they possibly can. And they just play hands off. No presence arch, no presence at boiler. They're just spotting. They know the Mongols have to come to them. Another smoke into apps, further denying intel. It's just perfect. The protocols here are absolutely executed as best you could possibly hope. And then there's the nail in the coffin, is the 35-second re-smoke at banana, so the Mongols can't go late B because this smoke's gonna be up here until like 10 seconds are left. It just continues to box out. Look how much utility is left for NAVI at this point. We still have a handful of flashes, a nade, a Molotov. They can just do whatever they want here. And the Mongols, they're running out of time. They're getting desperate. It comes down to it. Blitz's gonna have to set up a very shaky late B fake to see if they can pull a rotate. But NAVI aren't biting. They don't care if they have mid control. They know Alexi can jiggle arch and spot. And then the double up in pit with Bit and Emma is a perfect crossfire to deny the plant. And it's 23 seconds left. The Mongols are desperate. They're desperate to get anything going. NAVI knows it's a fake B. They know this is either a B rush or it's not going to be good. But crucially, as the smoke goes out, Alexi B gets the spot at arch. He does go down here. But again, 8 seconds left and they don't have the sight. The Bit and Emma crossfire does good at getting a couple picks before going down, but it wastes just enough time so that the bomb can't be planted and NAVI stalls into overtime. It is just simply beautiful to take an aggressive team like the Mongols and deprive them of any intel the entirety of the round. Because the Mongols want straight picks. They want gunfights in the open. They want to pounce on any advantage you can get. And NAVI, Alexi B, he walked circles around them in terms of operating the strat book around how the Mongols wanted to play and denied them space at every single turn. That is perfect CT side play. And then one last round. I just think this is hilarious. We got to cover it. The final round of the game. Makazze does beautiful entry work into the A bomb site, but gets knocked down to 7 HP as the bomb is going down. In a tricky low man situation, this 2v2 retake could go in the way of the Mongols and be a huge swing of momentum. Makazze finds himself in a tricky position. He's stuck back site. Everyone knows he's stuck back site. The Mongols, they have one Molotov coming in from B site. They're going to throw the molly from behind arch that drops down to the back of bomb site, and it should kill Makazze. And it would have if it didn't hit Makazze in the back of the fucking head, causing it to delay explosion long enough for Makazze to move before getting burnt. If the Molotov was literally an inch to the right or left, it would have landed on the ground and killed Makazze instantly. But no, it literally bounces out the back of his dome piece, keeps him alive with 6 HP, and allows Makazze to reposition and hit one more headshot before going down. Sometimes the CS gods just dictate you were supposed to win the game. There's no clearer sign to me that the CS gods did not want the Mongols to win today than that molly slamming into the back of Makazze's head. And listen, I spent a lot of time talking about some of the stuff going on in the map 1 because it was the only interesting map of the series. Map 2 on Ancient was an utter blowout. NAVI went 11-1. They went 9 straight rounds before the Mongols could even put a T-side round on the board. Makazze played out of his gourd. Bit played out of his gourd. Wonderful. Needed his vape. I mean, it is what it is, right? This can happen to any team in the world. You have a close, intense first map that you thought you won. You capitulate a comeback and then lose in brutal, deep overtime. That can break the mental of anybody, and it was very clear that that first game was deflating for the Mongols, and they did not come back with any punch until it was already too late. They were down 12-1 before they could string multiple rounds in a row in the second half on the CT side, but that would have been a next to impossible comeback to force it into overtime, and if they had, it would have been a wonderful story, but even though they ran 6 straight rounds, NAVI were still able to get that final piece and eliminate the Mongols, meaning they have a date with Spirit in the semis tomorrow. And honestly, if Makazze continues to play like this, dude, NAVI can win this. I don't think that's unreasonable to say. I do think Wonderful is worse than Shiro and Donk is the best player in the server, but NAVI have always won off of their tactics. And I don't care how bad they've been. Their tactics were never the problem, and today was a very good reminder of that. At the tactical system for NAVI, there was a reason they dominated the scene for 6 months straight, guys. They may not have that same firepower, but if Makazze can really cement himself as a true, like, star level player, then they might again. And that's dangerous. This is not a layup for Spirit in any sense of the word, and I'm really excited to see NAVI deep in a playoff run once again. For the Mongolz, obviously you're still exercising some playoff demons. It is what it is. You guys have been on a constant uptick lately. Just don't stumble. Come back stronger the next event, and we just need to start evolving the playbook. Their tactics simply aren't deep enough, and Blitz as an IGL needs to keep evolving for them to take that next leap forward. They are door knocking winning a tier 1 title. They're right there. They just need to put it all together in the right place in the right time and finally secure that victory. Maybe without Vitality in attendance. Moving on to our second match of the day, we had Furia taking on MOUZ. And this was an electric series from front to back. This went all 3 maps and was extremely close on all 3 maps. We went to double overtime on Train before MOUZ could pull out the victory 19-16, and then Furia eked out a close win with a great second half on Mirage 13-10, and then with their backs against the wall, down 11-7, MOUZ won 6 straight gun rounds on their way to beating Furia at the very end, as Furia simply couldn't keep up with some insane plays from Xerxin, Spinks, and Torzi to close out the series. The first map on Train was a back and forth affair pretty much the entire time, and pretty much right at the forefront of that was Molodoy and Torzi just going blow for blow. What would start here would continue throughout the rest of the series, with both players essentially being the best performers for their respective teams. This is really interesting because just a day or so ago, I put out the take on Twitter while I was recording the earlier Cologne group stage recap that I thought Molodoy was basically a top 5 opper in all but name only. I thought he was really only missing more results with Furia for me to be pretty confident in that take. And crucially, I put him above Torzi in my own personal rankings with 9-10 just ahead of both of them. Seeing both these guys match up so evenly, one kind of vindicates me to a certain extent because it proves that Molodoy can hang with a top 5 quality opper like Torzi, but also that Torzi deserves a fair amount of respect in his own right, despite me not being the biggest MOUZ fan in the world. And throughout this game and throughout this series, both of these dudes would have fantastic clutches, fantastic openers, huge multi-kills. They would swing rounds pretty much single-handedly, and Train is pretty much the best showcase of that, as Train is one of the best pure omping maps in the history of Counter-Strike due to how long the angles are on either bomb site. What was really interesting to watch play out is that MOUZ were definitively in the lead early, with most of Furia having a pretty slow start, especially on their T side, where they only got 5 total rounds before transitioning to the second half. MOUZ won both pistol rounds, a theme throughout the rest of the series, and ran up the deficit all the way to a 10-5 scoreline before Furia could really lock it in and start winning CT round after CT round after CT round, again, off the back of Molodoy really waking up and going God mode when they absolutely needed it. From a 10-5 deficit, Furia held it down and kept MOUZ just 2 more round wins on the way to forcing overtime. And honestly, again, if it wasn't for Torzi going into takeover mode, I think Furia would have been more successful in this overtime affair. They really struggled, only winning 1 T-side round over both overtimes, and that was really felt with Torzi's emphatic opping holding down the A bomb site. It really felt like Furia were forced into a position where they needed to push into the B site a lot more than they probably wanted to, and Spinks and Brolin were just there to shut it down more often than not, and even if they got the bomb down, well, you had Torzi and Jimmy on the rotate, and they were very effective in taking back that bomb site time after time. Look no further than round 31, where early on Torzi's going to get a pick on the Molodoy pushing out of Ivy. Meanwhile, the rest of Furia is going to collapse down and take into the B side, but Brolin's going to do a really good job of getting a pick and getting damage before going down as Jimmy and Torzi rotate through CT. Jimmy and Torzi combine for 2 kills apiece to pick apart the rest of Furia in the post plant and pick up that crucial round en route to victory. Overall, Furia were close, but they were always just nipping at the heels of MOUZ at this point in the series. I felt like going into Mirage, traditionally MOUZ's strongest map, that Furia were going to need heroics to pull this one over the line. And they definitely got some of that, as well as a conveniently poor performance from both Torzi and Xerxin at this point in the series. Now, full disclosure, I'm going to kind of skip past this game, more or less, because it was also the game I caught the least of live because I was busy doing stuff at the time. I guess if you really just want the cliff notes, this is one of those classic MOUZ performances where Spinks was doing the bulk of the heavy lifting here, while Xerxin, Jimmy, Torzi all had pretty mediocre games. To put it in perspective, Spinks ends with 23 kills, 19 deaths, and a 1.42 rating. No other MOUZ player got above a 0.85 in terms of rating. Xerxin had an awful game, going 9-20 and 0 for 8 on openers. Meanwhile, Brolin went 1 for 3. Jimmy went 0 for 2. They couldn't get openers, they couldn't get kills. Meanwhile, Yekindar had an amazing bounce back game after kind of a quiet performance on Train. Molodoy maintained steady impact, going 20-11 with 1.36 rating, and Yuri, K-Rod, and Fallen all picked up the slack when they needed to. The really big thing to note here is that Furia had a fantastic T-side, holding MOUZ just 3 CT side rounds when they are one of the best CT sided Mirage teams in the world. So while it shows a 10-13 scoreline in the final box score, this second half was entirely one-sided in the favor of Furia, and leaving us with a third map decider on Inferno. And frankly, we're going to scoot everything about Inferno to the side, and we're just going to talk about how this game ended, because for the first 2/3 of it, it was all Furia, all gas, no breaks. Molodoy was making statements left, right, and center, and it felt like MOUZ had no course to stop them. And that's despite the fact that Furia went up 3-5 early in the first half before MOUZ put up 4 strong rounds in a row to close out their CT side with a 7-5 lead. We swapped sides, and MOUZ do not win a round for the first 6 straight, as Furia goes straight lockdown mode on their own CT side effort, boxing out MOUZ entirely. I'm talking Xerxin couldn't get an opener to save his fucking life. There was no clutching from Torzi or Spinks. They were getting boxed the fuck out. All the way to a 7-11 lead, with MOUZ hanging on just by a thread. Xerxin had fed several rounds in a row, unable to get any openers, dying first, leaving himself in a position where there were no trade potential, and now we're here. Furia are staring down the barrel of match point, series point. They are up 5v4. What do MOUZ do now they've been boxed out of B? Well, I must direct my attention to one man, and his name is Spinks. Because Spinks has consistently been one of the best big game players in all of Counter-Strike since joining MOUZ. And how many times have we been in a situation like this where MOUZ are back up against the wall, they are faltering, they are ready to fail, and Spinks finds the light in the darkness for this team. On the late A rotate, Furia are very tucked in the side. They got that classic sight pit crossfire going. If I had to pause right here and give one criticism, I do believe Molodoy is out of position, being up at the top of Arch. If he's down by Moto and just watching for the Arch peak with someone guarding apartments, that's way better, because he can push into side or get a shot off before the smoke goes out. Where he's at right now, if they push through boiler side and take the site, he can't respond in time before he gets smoked out, and that's exactly what happens. Basically, MOUZ are allowed to isolate the 2 side players, with Molodoy not being able to help at all. And Spinks sees a great double kill, and then Jimmy gets Molodoy through the smoke on Moto for good effort, just to really affirm the fact that he shouldn't have been there in the first place. And following Yekindar, they try to navigate the 2v3, but it just doesn't land. Overall, MOUZ got an absolute godsend here, considering they went down to a 4v5 so early. Furia should have been converting this round from this advantage, but they get caught out of position, they lose the gunfights, and the game stays alive. And the problem is, the blood's in the water. Xerxin may have had a string of 5 or 6 pretty bad rounds, but he's still one of the best entries in the world, and he shows it in the very next round, getting an insane triple kill, just taking space up Banana like he owns it, including frankly a ridiculous shot onto Fallen, and then an immediate transfer over to K-Serrato and CT, and just an instant save from here. What are you gonna do? 2v4, it's Banana, or rather Inferno. Now luckily, the money is so good for Furia that they never have to save. If MOUZ are gonna make this comeback happen, it's winning against full bot rounds every single time. But once again, this round's gonna get into a situation where Furia should not be able to lose. Yekindar gives you this gift of this double kill after Brolin gets the opener, putting you in a 4v3 situation where MOUZ are out of position and have to rotate back to A desperately. All they have is the fact that Spinks has a gap towards Arch. All you have to do is the 2 players in A just hold position, hold frame, hold the site, and you can win this. MOUZ should not be able to find a gap here. But Fallen kind of gives the game a little bit. He manages to get a pick in Arch, but then repositions badly into Spinks pushing through Library. Now, I'm not sure what Fallen's looking at here. He should only be worried about the fact that Spinks is at Arch. He can be at Library, but he never even checks it. He gets shot on the side of the head. Then from here, Spinks just finds a magical gap, hitting an insane flick onto the player on site, and then cratering the final player in small pit. Just an insane triple kill from Spinks that saves the map and the series for MOUZ, and frankly breaks the mental of Furia as they play significantly worse from this point on. To the point that it kind of feels redundant for me to go round by round, because Furia just start making mistakes. I feel like they just got in their own heads because this game should have been won at several points, but my god, were MOUZ determined to not lose. And this comes to a really great point about this team. Obviously, I'm not the biggest fan of this MOUZ lineup. I really make no secret about that. However, one thing I will give them an insane amount of credit for, I've said it already in this video, I think, they have an inhuman ability to make comebacks happen. They do not lose easily. They've done it several times against Spirit, they've done it against the Falcons, they've done it against every other team in the world. They just can't beat Vitality. And it must really suck to know that you're this good into every other team in the world except the one team you need to beat, and it's the one team you have to face tomorrow. Can MOUZ, get rid of all their demons, exercise all their demons, and beat Vitality? Sure, but it feels like the only way MOUZ will win is if Vitality underperform. If Vitality play to their average level, I don't see a world where this MOUZ can win unless, I don't know, Torji goes Super Saiyan and drops 50 kills every map. They just don't have the star power to compete with Vitality, and that has to be so frustrating because the only way you can beat Vitality at that point is with better tactics. And you play the exact same playbook. You play like Vitality does. It's Astralis and Liquid all over again. I'll keep making that comparison because it's just insane that history has repeated itself to this kind of degree. MOUZ can beat every other team in the world, but the one they want to beat. And maybe they'll prove me wrong tomorrow. It'll be one of the greatest stories in Counter-Strike if they do. For Furia, this loss is gonna hurt. You guys played really, really good. You had the game in your palm of your hands, and you choked at the very, very end. However, I would just like to remind everyone that Furia were like a top 15 team before they made these two roster moves. And now they're contending to be some of the best teams in the world. The turnaround for these guys is incredible. Molodoy might be one of the best scouted players ever for what he's done for this team. So, I think they have a fantastic thing to work around. I think it is a little bit sad that we're kind of staring down the barrel of the end of Fallen's career. He had an exit interview where he's like, hey, I don't really know what's going to happen after December, but we're just going to play until then. And I hope that before then, we get one last Furia win. I think it would be a great end of Fallen's career with this new era of international Brazilian rosters for him to win one more title. And frankly, if they go to like a PGL where there's no Vitality, fuck yeah, they can do it. Absolutely. They can beat any team in the world. Just maybe not the ones with the two French guys. Now, I'm not talking about 3D Max. Alright guys, that was a bit of a longer recap considering it was only 2 games, but there was a lot to dive into, so hopefully you guys enjoyed. Make sure you take a second, leave a like, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel already. Help me hit 10k subs by the end of the year. Also, one more thing, like I said in the beginning of the video, I want to hit 1,000 followers on Twitch within the next 2 weeks. We're currently at 747, so take a sec and follow me at twitch.tv/LionHeartZ2. The rest of this recap was filmed in front of my Twitch chat live tonight. So maybe you can catch me in the future working on a video or playing Counter-Strike, but I hope to see you there nonetheless. Thank you to SkinsMonkey for sponsoring this video. Check the top link in the description, go and trade on their website. It lets them know I sent you their way. Thank you to SkinsMonkey. Thank you to my channel members, Justin Jesse Furley, Milan Berta, Bubblesj, Dr. Cocktor, Patatas Kaftesi, PTR, B1 Games, Cody Foxworthy, Justin Vegt, I'm Flashbang, Snowy White, Rowdy, Vergil'sPlasticChair, LBKcs, Snax Enjoyer, Crunchy Water, and zerotwocs. If you want to become a channel member, do the link in the description down below for all next month to get into the video, just as well as a customer on our community Discord. I'll see you guys soon in another video. Peace.